Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're venturing into some pretty interesting territory. It's where the cosmic meets the hilariously personal.
Yeah, it's quite the mix.
We're talking about the mechanics of creation 1 minute and the next. The people channeling this stuff get a very specific, almost funny lecture about their own repressed anger.
It's actually a really essential session. It gives us this foundational philosophical idea, one that's meant to sort of replace how we even think about time and space.
Right.
But then it wraps it all up in this incredibly specific, sometimes, brutally honest personal guidance. It's like the ultimate reality check for them.
So for everyone listening, our focus today is session 59. That's from the early sessions, book 2 of the Seth material. It was recorded back on June 3rd, 1964.
And we're doing a deep dive into the notes, the insights, everything captured by Jane Roberts, who Seth calls Rupert, and her husband, Joseph or Rob.
Okay, and just before we jump in, the mandatory stuff. This deep dive, it's distributed completely free of charge on all the major platforms. It's purely for educational purposes.
Absolutely. And full credit goes, of course, to the Seth material itself and the publisher, New Awareness Network.
So our mission today is, well, it sounds simple, but it's pretty deep. We're going to try and understand this thing called quality depth. Then we'll look at the idea of inexhaustible energy and wrap up with how a family soap opera can stretch across lifetimes.
And apparently determine everything from where you put your sofa.
Right. To why you might have a sore jaw. It's quite the ride.
It really is.
Okay, let's start with the biggest idea first, the one that really makes you pause. Seth kicks things off by saying the ego, our sense of self, it's like a building block.
A fundamental unit, yeah. And these units combine into larger structures. He calls them massive units, or even these pyramids of psychic comprehensions. Big stuff.
He's really laying the groundwork here to kind of dismantle our usual 3D view of things, isn't he?
Exactly. He immediately says, look, time and space, the way we measure them, they're just local rules. They only apply right here on our specific physical plane.
He's very clear about that. Once you step outside this reality,
time basically has no meaning except within the domain of your own plane. His words.
So, okay, if time and space are just local conventions, what's the real perspective, the mechanism for how things actually expand and change?
That's where quality depth comes in. That's the core concept for this session.
Quality depth, it sounds spatial, like how deep something is.
Right. That's what you'd think. But no, he stresses it has nothing to do with physical space or intervals or beginnings and endings. It's entirely about psychic fulfillment.
Psychic fulfillment?
Or value fulfillment. That's the term he uses a lot. It's like the cosmic drive, the purpose behind things.
Okay, so if it's not spatial, how does it work? How does quality depth function?
He says it's the only perspective in which an idea can expand.
The
analogy he uses, which I think helps, is like a trance state. Trance can be light or deep. Well, psychic motion, what he calls true traveling, happens in quality depth. But it's a movement based on fulfillment, achieving value, not covering physical distance.
He calls it the inner extension of psychological time, right?
That's it. And if we try to picture it in our limited spatial terms, it just looks like motion without direction. You can't map it.
Up or down, north or south.
Exactly. And when pushed for some kind of visual, he says, well, perhaps it would have a funnel shape.
A funnel shape, okay.
But it's really only known by its effects on consciousness.
Yeah.
Like a wind, maybe,
No.
operating within what he calls the value climate of psychological realities. Pretty abstract stuff.
Very abstract. But then he brings it right back down to something relatable, which is great. He talks about these huge pyramids of comprehension, these high-level psychic beings.
Yeah.
And he says they aren't complete. They're not perfect. They're driven by something. Well, something we can all kind of recognize.
Yes. The sublime discontent. This is so important.
It really is.
If they were perfect, he says, they'd just stop. They'd cease to be. So instead, they're driven by this internal, magnificent dissatisfaction, really, to explore new patterns of existence, new perspectives of quality depth.
So the universe isn't expanding because it's perfect.
No. It's expanding because even at the highest levels, there's this inherent built-in drive for more fulfillment, more depth.
That phrase, sublime discontent, that should really resonate with you listening. We're often told to find peace and satisfaction, but Seth is suggesting the very engine of the universe is a kind of restless, sublime itch.
Exactly. That desire for more depth, for a richer perspective, it's literally what drives reality forward.
And that's quality depth. That's the direction of that expansion.
Right. If you're stuck thinking only in terms of time and space, expansion means, I don't know, a bigger house, a longer vacation. But in psychic reality, expansion is about diving deeper into the value, fulfillment, the quality depth of an idea, of consciousness itself.
Okay, hold that thought about sublime discontent, because now we pivot
Sharply.
from the discontent of massive psychic entities
Oh.
to the very immediate, very physical discontent of Jane Roberts struggling with a swollen salivary gland. Seth just shifts gears completely.
Huh. Yeah, he swaps the funnel shape of quality depth for the painful reality of Jane's jaw. But actually, the transition works if you think about it. Cosmic drive, sublime discontent, personal manifestation, deep dissatisfaction.
That's a good point. He decides, okay, enough theory, let's talk about Rupert's health.
And his opening is just brutally honest. He says dealing with Rupert's health is harder than anyone else's. Why? She asked the question.
And then immediately slams the ego gates down, refusing to hear the answer. Wow.
She's literally blocking the psychic insight she just asked for.
So the specific issue was this swollen jaw, the salivary gland, and Seth confirms, yep, totally psychosomatic.
Entirely, and he links it directly to her writing, her creative work. He actually stresses that her working at poetry for at least an hour after supper is, quote, of supreme importance to her subconscious development.
The practical insight there is just so clear. If you hold back your creative expansion, your value fulfillment,
The body reacts. It creates a physical contraction, a symptom, to basically force the issue.
and the root cause underneath that.
Aggression. According to Seth, Rupert fears expressing aggression. It started with her mother, apparently, and now it's directed, or rather not directed, at professional people, like editors who aren't pushing her work enough.
So she doesn't lash out at them?
No, she doesn't direct the aggressive energy against, as he puts it, living things. Instead, she turns it inward.
And that's what manifests physically. Stiff necks, sore gums.
Exactly. But before that, there's the warning sign. That deep feeling of dissatisfaction.
Which then shows up how? This is the funny part.
Right. It shows up in the sudden disruption of their apartment. And not just, tidying up. He says furniture moving on a truly monumental scale.
Monumental scale, like she's punishing the furniture for her own repressed anger.
It sounds like it. Can't yell at the editor, so move the sofa across the room.
I'm just picturing Joseph trying to transcribe this deep philosophy while Jane's wrestling a bookcase in the background. So what's Seth's simple solution to all this psychodrama?
It's almost comically practical. He basically says, look, it would just be easier for Rupert to direct his aggression against the proper person's, the lax editors, rather than her own body or the apartment.
Just deal with it directly.
Yeah. Address the source of the dissatisfaction head on. Stop turning that powerful energy inward or onto the furniture.
Okay, so that's a pretty useful psychological insight for all of us, maybe. If you find yourself rearranging the entire living room at 2 a.m.
Maybe send that strongly worded email instead.
Right. Okay, moving from repressed energy to abundant energy. Seth now turns his attention directly to Joseph, the transcriber.
Yeah. Apparently Joseph, while writing this down, had a thought, a rather sardonic remark, Seth calls it in his head, doubting Seth's earlier promise about more energy being available.
And Seth just overheard it psychically.
Seems so. Call him right out on it, which becomes a great teaching moment for everyone, including us listening now.
Because Joseph's skepticism points to that really common, really limiting belief.
The dangerous false belief, yeah. That energy is finite, like money in the bank. Once you spend it, it's gone, and you can go bankrupt.
That scarcity thinking is just, it's everywhere.
It's so limiting. Seth says this belief actually causes people to consciously try and conserve energy, or only use the very last bit before they think it gets replaced. They're basically blocking the natural flow.
When the truth, according to Seth, is the complete opposite.
Exactly. He states very clearly, you have truly and practically inexhaustible stores of energy to draw upon.
So why do we hang on to that scarcity idea so tightly, even when we sometimes feel those bursts of energy?
Well, we're just conditioned, aren't we, to think input, output, eat this, burn that. Seth's saying energy is more like, well, it thrives with use. It naturally replaces itself.
Like a muscle.
Kind of, yeah. Or just a constant flow. If you don't use a muscle, it weakens. If you demand more from it within reason, it gets stronger. He says energy is automatically transformed and used when the demand is genuine. You don't have to hoard it.
And he gives actual proof right there in the session itself.
He does. He points to Jane Rupert and her physical endurance during the sessions. She's dictating for 2 hours straight, pacing constantly, talking nonstop, using up her voice.
With only short breaks.
Right. And this sustained, high-intensity activity, Seth says, that demonstrates that additional energy is being automatically drawn upon. It's converted from psychic reserves into physical energy, right when it's needed, without her consciously trying or feeling depleted afterwards.
And like a live demonstration of the principle.
It really is. So the practical takeaway for you listening is, stop trying to consciously manage your energy reserves so much. Too conscious attempts, Seth says, will just fail.
So what do you do?
You need to understand the principle, trust the abundance. He even suggests that just engaging with this material, reading it, thinking about it, should help encourage that natural transformation of abundant psychic energy into physical capacity when you actually need it for, well, for value fulfillment.
Interesting. Okay, from energy reserves to family feuds across time. The final segment, Seth pivots again, dramatically this time.
Yeah, he brings up something terrifying that happened to Joseph years earlier. Joseph stepped on a rusty nail out in California.
Okay.
And he had this extreme reaction, apparently needed a horse serum tetanus shot, which itself almost killed him. A really severe physical trauma.
And Seth links that incident
Directly to a past life memory. He just pulls back the curtain on these really old family conflicts that are still playing out.
What was the memory? What was the scene?
It's pretty chilling. Yeah, Joseph, in a past life, was just 3 years old. His name was Williams, later changed to Drake. He was watching his father, who was a clergyman, do something horrific.
Okay.
The father slammed a hot horseshoe onto a wounded horse's tender, unshod foot.
Oh, wow.
And the 3-year-old Joseph Williams screamed. He identified in terror with the animal's pain. It was that paralyzing fear, Seth says, that caused his extreme physical reaction decades later when he stepped on the nail.
So the subconscious fear was,
would your father treat you in the same manner? That was the underlying terror. The trauma wasn't just the horse's pain, but the father's cruelty and the fear it could be turned on him. That manifested decades later as this almost paralytic physical response to a similar foot injury.
that is just a stunning example of how specific past life trauma can target a body part or trigger a symptom so much later.
It really is. And then Seth fills in more details about that clergyman life. Joseph was Episcopalian, slim, disciplined, except apparently sexually, died at 63.
And this is where the soap opera starts.
This is where it really kicks off, yeah.
Yeah.
The main conflict involved 2 women.
Okay.
His wife in that life was a woman named Nell Brownell.
Oh.
And Seth reveals Nell Brownell is Joseph's present mother.
Whoa.
And then he just adds, very dryly, they did not get along.
Understatement, probably. So who was the other woman?
Enter the sister, the wife's sister. Joseph, as the clergyman, had a brief affair with her, and guess who she is in the present life?
Now, let me guess. Jane's mother.
Bingo. Rupert's present mother, who Seth describes as fleshy and later became an invalid. And if you track the current relationships, Joseph and Jane's mother apparently dislike each other instantly in this life.
Reenacting the old pattern.
Exactly. The conflict, the tension, it was all still there.
He literally wanted the sister he didn't get.
Right. And the universe, or their own choices, brought all the key players, the clergyman, the wife he didn't get along with, the sister he had the affair with, back together into one family structure in this life.
To work through the unresolved drama. Wow.
And the layers just keep coming. Seth drops the final bombshell. There was one illegitimate child from that affair back then.
Good grief. No wonder their current family dynamics were so charged. This explains so much.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? And then right after delivering all this stunning heavy history, Seth ends the session with a bit of levity.
Ow.
He just notes he has to stop because Rupert Jane is using his reserves of energy for the night, attempting to block me. And Seth says this caused him to laugh.
Huh. Even after all that high philosophy and deep personal revelation, the ego just tries to slam the gate shut again.
Still trying to control the flow. It's perfect.
Okay, so this deep dive really covered a lot of ground. We went from the structure of cosmic expansion
all the way down to an ancient family drama playing out in a living room in Elmira, New York in 1964.
So for you listening, the 3 big takeaways seem pretty powerful and actually quite practical.
I think so. First, remember quality depth. Real expansion, real growth happens there. It's driven by value fulfillment and that sublime discontent nudging you towards something more.
Second, your energy. It's inexhaustible. That belief that it's finite. That's the main thing holding you back. Trust the abundance.
And finally, those really intense personal relationships. They might just be guided by these incredibly powerful, persistent reincarnational patterns, that difficult person in your life. Maybe they're a central character in a story you both started centuries ago.
And thinking about these concepts can really help explain things. Like why a seemingly random illness might pop up. Maybe check that unexpressed aggression or that furniture placement.
Huh, right. Or how you can tap into more vitality just by understanding and trusting that the energy is there.
We definitely encourage you, if this resonates, to study the Seth material books directly. Go deeper into these ideas yourself.
Absolutely. Engaging with the source material is always the best way, and you can find the books and more information at the New Awareness Network website and bookstore. That's sethcenter.com, the early-sessions.
Okay, so as we close out, here's a final thought for you to mull over based on quality depth. If true psychic motion, the expansion of ideas, happens in that realm of value fulfillment, what idea, what piece of self-expression, what potential value fulfillment are you maybe holding back right now? What's your particular sublime discontent nudging you towards? And what ego gate might you be ready to open just a crack so the answer can start to flow?
Something to think about.
Definitely. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.